About 3-4 years ago, artificial intelligence was seen as, futuristic, no use cases, हम कैसे करेंगे, हमें जरूरत नहीं है. Have things changed now?
So, so what has changed is that the future has already come here. So I always say the future is now here. Second thing, what has happened is then in last 2 years, what we have gone through in the pandemic, it has shown us the potential of digital transformation and artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence comes a little later, but first of all, you need to go digital, and the benefits that you can derive from going digital, that has been accentuated actually, which was somewhere, we were feeling that yes, it's good to go, on automation. It's good to go on digital transformation path. But now we know actually that it is something that works and works very well and works in a way that you have to start thinking of completely different business models. So I'll give you an example. And I'll give an example from my own company, and I'll give an example, outside the company. So one example that we have in our company, what happened was during the pandemic, while we were looking at the strategy, I always said that this is more of a tragedy than strategy. So it was, there was no, the strategy paper, the AOPs, etc. had lost their meaning at that point in time. So one of our company is in real estate, and real estate is something, especially on the residential side, is truly something where you have to touch, feel, look at the atmosphere around, and then only you make a decision. Then only you can turn around a sale, so to say. But that was not even feasible. That was not possible. So what we did was we created those 3D models, and we created those digital paths. And we showed the customer, and we say, lo and behold, the sales was higher than that was happening in the new normal period. So primarily what was happening was, during the normal period, while we were approaching, our sales guy or BD guys were approaching 2 customers a day, they were able to touch base with 5 customers a day, because they were on a platform, they were on Zoom. And with this, your leads were much higher. And we said, okay, you don't take a decision right now, but at least, show your expression of interest, pay 50,000 rupees, and then, book, and we will hold this price, etc., etc. So at the end of the day, what happened was we got much larger number of conversion, with that. So that is what showed us the potential of the digital platform and potential of the digital transformation, that you would say. I'll give another example, which is, yes, of course, Krishnan has joined, and you'll have to introduce him, but just I'll take another 1 minute. And this is a very interesting example, so you had physical pharmacy stores, and then you had, companies like PharmEasy, like 1mg,
virtual ones.
Yes. So, all these kind of companies, and they started taking away a lot of business from physical stores. So there was another very large, company, Apollo, which had probably the largest number of physical pharmacy stores in their fold. And they also, probably, saw the heat coming. And they had to work, even as a very traditional company, to create a platform of Apollo 24/7. And that's how now, this is something today you see a lot of advertisement, coming from them, and they have really caught up. So they have even monetized a very latent potential that was available to be to be received. So therefore, this is what has actually happened, and that is why these words which we thought were in the air somewhere have actually materialized.
No doubt. Even the bricks and mortars companies have now realized the value of going digital and are adopting a digital way of life. We'd like to welcome our second speaker, Krishnan Ramachandran, Senior Vice President F&A and India CFO at Berkshire India Private Limited, HGS Healthcare. Thank you so much, Krishnan, for joining us. We were just having, I was just having a discussion with Mr. Joginder Singh on, how artificial intelligence was seen as so futuristic a few years ago. And now he's demonstrated to us how, regular bricks and mortars company have decided to go digital because that is the way forward. It's more efficient. It brings you more leads. He's given us an example. So now I would like to hand it over to both of you to discuss the future of AI, specifically in the finance function. Because, since the pandemic, everybody is using AI for customer experience. I would request both of you to discuss how AI works in the finance function as well. Over to both of you.
Right. Thank you, Anisha. It is truly wonderful to welcome Krishnan. And thank you, Krishnan, to be here. And let's, I think it is a very good platform to discuss. So let me just, start with how many of us are familiar with, the year-end drudgery in finance, especially, coming from finance, we see the year-end drudgery. How do we deal with strategic financial, operational, or cyber risks? How many of us stare at fraud-related instances? Or how many of us, look at inconsistency in achieving business goals? Or service offerings that we have not leveraging technology potential, or we see high operational cost, or we see dissatisfied customers with very high error rates and long turnaround times. This all sounds very, very familiar, right? So not very long ago, the space of process automation used to be domain of IT and process experts. But now companies have managed to significantly reduce the barriers to implementing automation and automation technology. And today, these are being implemented by finance, marketing, and other operational leaders across functions. And they exist as great tools for a variety of tasks, such as process mining for discovering process inefficiencies. We have seen robotic process automation. We have seen intelligent automation. We have seen rule-based automation. So all that on automation. And then the AI, artificial intelligence to deal with more judgment-based complex problems, So especially the first process mining and RPA had a very tremendous impact over last 2 years, 3 years, at least. So now the question was, what next? So what can we do when we combine all of these with artificial intelligence? So what will be done? So in my view, what is going to be seen in future is our ability to process unstructured data. And sometimes, we have a whole lot of data which is available with us. And the data, we say data is oil, but how many of us are truly monetizing that data? The next thing which is going to happen probably with the artificial intelligence is open systems to allow us the best of breed kind of automation. And the most important thing that we have to really look for is customer experience. So, on that background, Krishnan, I would like to just ask you, how do you see automation as an integral part of your overall business strategy, and not only, the finance function per se?
Thank you, Jogendra, and thank you, team, for inviting me here as a speaker today. It's my pleasure to be part of you. Now, coming straight to the point, Jogendra, see, if you see, automation has always been an ambition, even in the past. So even if you look at what businesses wanted to achieve since the 1980s and 1990s, have always been, the term automation has been quite familiar. It is only that the pace of adopting this has been gradual. So initially we had, big computers coming in, and then slowly we started adopting various programs. We started learning Lotus 1, 2, 3, and then Excel and so on and so forth. And we started making use of various programs available for our day-to-day functions, and then we increase the scale of adopting machines as part of our work life. And today, if you see, we have advanced programs like you said, artificial intelligence, that is robotics. We have machine learning. We have blockchain, which is coming up in a big way. If you see various milestones, you will see that the early or late 90s is when they started picking up. The mobile phone technology came into picture. The various, different methods of easing the communication between people, between system, between processes. And as you rightly said, initially, when all of this were happening, the mindset was to see or to think that this is more IT driven. But actually, if you analyze, it's all complete business process driven right from the way you do marketing. Today we hear digital marketing, right? That's a quite familiar term. From there to planning, the project planning that you do, the execution that you plan, and then coming back to finance, accounts, and various analysis that you do. So automation has always been an integral part. It will remain an integral part. It will continue to be an integral part. It's only, the pace of adopting it will increase as we grow, as we see the next generation. I think what is important is to realize this truth. And people who are thinking of investing on this should do it earlier than later. Especially, we see a lot of startups coming. Old organizations have come up the tough way, but I guess for startups and some of those medium sized companies, it's a very big opportunity that they are in this era where the scale of adapting automation is quite fast. So we have to stay on track, adopt. For old organizations, matured organizations, keep looking for new things coming their way. For upcoming organizations, just adopt it. Don't think about it. That is your business strategy. It will ultimately reflect in your ROI.
Yeah, absolutely, Krishnan. I think this is truly wonderful. So if I really take this further forward, and I look at how this how do you link automation to your corporate transformation goals? I see that the macroeconomic conditions that are there right now in now after the pandemic, and sometimes before, where the business environment was a little under pressure. So this is also putting a lot of pressure on profit margins across sectors, whether it is cost productivity, and it is actually unlocking new values. And this is now on the top of the mind of the senior management. So this is where we see what else can be done. So we have gone through, one wave of automation, which was primarily the basic automation, that we do. Now do we do what? So, I get reminded a very good McKinsey study, which talked about the trends. And it talked about, 4 fundamental trends. And these trends were, one is more connectivity. So this was a 2019 report where it talked about 32 billion connected machines. And of course, in the last 2 years, this number would have truly jumped very, very high. So, but with this also, when I say 32 billion connected machines, that means for every one human, there are 4 machines which are connected. And this connectivity of machines and connected machines are giving rise to a completely new business model. So that's, something which has become a very, very important part of, looking at how do we do business. And the next trend that we talked about was lower transaction cost, because there is a lot of automation that has come in place. And then the middle layer from the transaction is sort of disappearing, slowly. So with both of these coming in place, the transaction costs are coming lower, and this can be passed on to the customer. And this also can create a larger market. You can cater to a much larger, space. Third, of course, we talked about is unprecedented automation. And this automation, which was happening on a need based in a area where you felt pain, is now coming at everywhere. So this is truly becoming sort of omnipresent. Anything, any process, any system that is there, any process you see, you would like to automate it. You would actually see the feasibility of automating that process for sure. And for this fundamental societal shift towards how do we see this society? So people, whether they are buying cars or whether they are the way they want to live their life. So around these trends, the business models are changing to create a confluence of physical and digital. So some kind of a phygital presence. And I give an example of insurance that we have as one of our entities. It's called Hero Insurance Broking, and then that's probably the India's largest insurance broking company in terms of number of policies. We used to pre-pandemic we did more than 1 crore policies a year. We have a lot of physical presence. So let's say more than 10,000 physical touch points. And when I give them a digital platform, then this can explode. We have seen that in last, a couple of months itself, when we introduced POS, and this created good amount of jobs in rural areas. So in last 6 months, we have created almost about 5,000 jobs in a way. 5,000 people have adopted this POS. In a small way, of course, they will grow. And we want to do, take it to 50,000. And we will see how much more we can do in next 3 to 4 years. But when there is a confluence of physical and digital, this can create some wonderful value in this entire business. So what I really look at is that at the end of the day, when I say artificial intelligence, put into the automation, it has to relate to business outcome via data-driven decision making is, absolutely one thing that you have to do. And this is not something which is static. So therefore, there would be a continuous improvement in this while through machine learning, more data is consumed and the system will learn, a little more. This will lead to enhanced human potential, where it would refuel the innovation with extensive use of machine learning, real-time data analytics, and customer experience. So this is, how I really look at this scenario when I look at, corporate transformation goals and you link automation to this. So Krishnan, I take it to the next angle where we talk about managing risk. And managing risk is also a very large part of our businesses today. So, this has become an issue, a major issue to deal with in digital journey, especially. So how do you see this artificial intelligence can help in this objective, especially in the cyber, security and cyber risk space?
Yeah, good point, Jogendra. See, basically, if you see, risk is an integral part of the way you do business. It always has a risk. And what is the need of the hour is to understand that there is a risk and carry out a risk mitigation plan. If you look at the way artificial intelligence programming itself is done, you create the whole thing through a bot control room, right? And you also create bots to monitor bots, right? So this is something which is getting embedded as you deploy artificial intelligence in any of your areas. Now, what happens is the entire digitization is done in a very systematic manner with a complete architectural planning of depending upon the size of how you deploy bots. And even the rules relating to cybersecurity, if you see, are constantly being studied, reviewed. New methodology comes in, but we also need to remember people who break the security or breach the security are also getting advanced. They are also using digital means to breach the security. Right today, for example, if there is somebody who asks you for an OTP, he can swipe your bank account, right? So as much as we talk of automation, there is the other side which is wanting to breach this, also getting quite advanced in using automation to do what they want to do. So I think it is the constant realization and also the simultaneous building of breaking or understanding how you can mitigate these risks is something that you have to do right from the planning stage. And I think that is where the technology department, to a great extent, does not only in-house research, but also a very, very constant training, brainstorming, trying to do. There is separate set of team who keeps trying to breach the security path, and they do a constant test. And now they deploy bots to do the same thing. They program the bots, and then they again find out solutions in terms of how do you resist, how do you get an early warning signal. So I think, yeah, it's quite important for us to understand. And the other part is, as you again rightly said, it's the risk mitigation or thinking about the risk is not just something which the IT department or the IT team has to do. It has to be, that thought process has to be embedded in all the departments, in all the processes. Only then, you'll be able to sort of ensure that you're completely packaged from a security perspective. Risk policies, risk documentation, risk evaluation, risk audits, and all of this have become an integral part of business. So I guess that is the right way to go about. And as I said earlier, I think medium-sized companies and startups should soon, engage and imbibe these good practices right from the early stage of their business process maturity in order to reap the benefits and ensure that they are completely protected.
Yes, absolutely. Question that
Another interesting point, Jogendra, that comes is with all of this, customer experience has gained a lot of ground, and therefore measuring customer metrics has gained a lot of importance in this post-pandemic situation, especially. And seems like customer experience is a matter of focus beyond a plain ROI, right? So how do you see customer experience being a little more highlighted than ROI?
So I think that's a very wonderful question. And, today when we talk about, business model, we first of all, think about customer experience. And, the example I gave about, on the real estate, that was all about creating that wow factor for the customer, even if it was, digital. So how do we give that wow factor to him? I would not, name a company, but when, sometimes we have seen using bots and, some customer experience, we have seen some harrowing, examples where somebody was traveling and he could not get his baggage, while he came from a flight. And he made that complaint, and while writing a complaint as a human, he used a very cryptic language, like, thank you for the wonderful service, that you have given me. I am yet to receive my baggage. However, the bot, fed on the artificial intelligence, probably not with enough data and not, done properly, wrote back, we are very happy that you are happy with our services. we wish to see you, again. So there, sometimes, the customer experience can become very twisted. But having said that, I would say that the entire purpose of digital transformation, or using AI, or using, whatever kind of agile methodologies that we use for us, is towards the satisfaction and the right experience of the customer, to satisfy the customer, because that's how we say the entire business exists for the customer. So what we have done, we have created some kind of cohorts of customers, based on customer similarities. So multiple groups have been created, and within that, we can try and see how we can extract the data. How can we put them, give them some kind of a personalized service? So we have actually used a specific tool from one of the service providers, which is primarily for personalization, identification, and serving the content that is needed by that particular customer. So you have to truly go and understand what is his need, and whether I'm fulfilling that need also or not. And outside the platform also, we also check engagement rate and effectiveness, and then you customize the content and test the data and learn. The good thing is real-time analytics, can help you see the data and give wonderful customer insights. So this has to be, of course, iterative. And as I said, with more data, more usage, this gets refined. And where we talk about judgment-based complex situations, that is where, the more the data and more iterative processes, will make it absolutely better. So customer query, customer pain point has to be addressed in time with agility. In one of our businesses, while we were looking at this, and we found that whatever customer queries are coming, we are not able to address more than 80% customer queries. Now, this was, in my view, a very disastrous, state of affairs. So therefore, we had to put ahead some CRM systems to ensure that, number one, everything is captured. So whatever comes as a customer query by way of a call or SMS or WhatsApp or on whatever platform, on email, all that is captured, and there is 100% compliance to, so we revert to 100%. Now we would see whether we are able to solve 100% of their pain points, is something that we would try and see. So that is how we try and look at how we can work on agile methods using customized CRM, that we are adopting in different specific geographies. When we talk about data is oil, so how do we truly understand data? How we can understand this data, and if we understand data, we can interpret data, we can monetize data. But this is exactly the journey where we have started on. Of course, there is a long way to go, but customer experience is absolutely, something which is a very, very important part of this journey. So another, question that comes into my mind is one part which is very crucial for prioritizing digital transformation is automating manual processes or using digital tools to collaborate and work more seamlessly, and freeing up staff to do higher value added work. And that is one of the key benefits of the automation. The thought of automation has also created a bit of anxiety for people, and even triggered some kind of resistance from employees fearing job loss or radical changes in their jobs. Do you think that prospect of doing higher value work and therefore becoming even more valuable to an organization will be enough to mitigate people's worry around automation, or there's something else that we'll have to do?
So, Jogendra, if you see the journey, let me break this entire into two parts, right? One is the automation of manual processes. Let's first get there, and then I'll come back to the second part of the question on what people have done. See, there has been a sudden growth in the Indian economy and Indian business houses, especially from 1995, 1996, and uh, till now, and we are sort of still growing. But the growth has been quite sharp, especially with the BPO space picking up, the IT sector picking up, etc. When the sudden growth happened, people just wanted to follow processes. So the first step itself, because earlier, from an earlier era where processes were loose, people started tightening processes. But in that process, they introduced lot of manual processes which were interlinked, and people just followed that blindly. Even when they scaled up, they thought they were convenient, and they sort of laid down those processes. Now, when you look at the automation part, the first thing to do is to break the current processes and make it in a form where it is automatable. Otherwise, automation journey can only travel as much as the process allows it to travel, right? So the first step itself is to revisit these processes. And that is where the manual intervention is. Once you simplify processes, bring it down into a proper steps where automation, or where you can make it rule based, then it becomes a lot more easier to deploy automation. One of the reasons why the OCR technique in the robotic process has taken a lot of time to stabilize. If you see automation companies who are selling OCR technology, they have been struggling in this space for the last 2-3 years, trying to bring in improved version, because the bot fails to understand from reading a PDF document. But now there is a significant progress. So this process improvements need heavy brainstorming, structuring, and that is where the manual processes are. But having said that, you can achieve a lot, especially in the area of finance. People who used to close books by the 15th and 17th of the month, today we close books on the 2nd of the month, right? And with a lot many controls, maker, checker, etc. And when I say books, it's not only just the books, it's also the processes around it. We are today dependent on a lot of client systems for our own revenue data. So it starts from the client systems, transforms to our systems, and then it comes to the financial process. And all of this you're able to achieve in about 2-3 days time, only because you ironed out the process and you can automate a lot of stuff. Now coming back to the human part of it, the human resistance to automation has always been there even from the beginning. When computers were introduced, people assumed that the importance of human work will be lost, whereas what we see is the reverse. You need a lot more people today, especially even in order to automate. For example, the artificial intelligence and data science has created so much of job opportunities. You're learning new things. There are new institutes coming up. There are a lot of educational opportunities, and then that has transformed into job opportunities, especially in the automation field. Similarly, when artificial intelligence, machine learning, and blockchain technology picks up in a significant manner, only when you enter into the field will you know that in order to achieve that high standard and high quality, the kind of deployment and the kind of ideas that you need. What will change is a person sitting and writing down something. Maybe he'll just speak and it will happen. So those are the kind of stuff that you will see in the method of how you train people, how you deploy people. But the importance of a human requirement in the automation journey, I don't think will ever diminish. But that is a huge task in the hands of leaders like us to constantly educate our teams, our peers, our vendors, our customers, and instill that assurance that you are going to sharpen by yourself by automation. It's not that your value is going to diminish. So I think that is the key message that we need to give.
Yeah, I think Krishna, I'll just add in this. You know, what you talked about is absolutely wonderful and correct. You know, that people are a very vital part of this entire journey, and you know, all of this being done for them, and they are, you know, so without them, such effort can succeed. You know, as we say, Sangachadvam, Samvadadham, Samvo Manansi Janatam. So everybody has to work together, and then only you get the right kind of you know, results. So that is where, you know, we say EQ is more important than IQ while you take up these kind of programs, and the change management during these periods is absolutely very, very important.
Absolutely. You also made a very interesting point, Jogendra, especially when you do the data analytics, right? And when now we talk of doing, you know, the journey of moving from descriptive analytics to a predictive analytics, moving from hindsight to foresight is very important. And people have started using data analytics using artificial intelligence. It'll help if you could throw some more light on that, and in terms of how things are sort of transforming in that area.
Yes. So Krishna, I think this you made a very good point. You know, from going from hindsight to foresight. You know, so we have all you know, been looking at the data, especially the finance data, and even the operational data for that matter. We look at what has been the data and what has been the result. So what has been the, and you do analytics on that. So this was more like a descriptive analytics, you know, as we say. And descriptive analytics is, I give an example of, let's say we say we lost $100,000, right? So that is analytics telling us that this is what we have done. So this is more like a descriptive analytics. You have to move up the value chain from there to diagnostic analytics. Why did we lose this, right? And then predictive analysis that, let's say at this rate by year end, we will lose so much. And finally, I think that is very important when we reach the prescriptive analysis. And when I say prescriptive analysis, I'm saying if we, let's say, improve production in unit 4 by 5%, we will be able to recoup this loss. So this is what, and this is where exactly the role of artificial intelligence comes. So which can see patterns, which can look at the numbers and predict that and find out what can be done to correct whatever issues have cropped up. So that is where I think it is absolutely important for us to truly look at this journey. And in this, journey, of course, is very, very fascinating journey, which can enable the way forward for very complex judgment-based processes to increase agility and improve efficiency. The rewiring and optimizing traditional finance processes with an automation roadmap is the future of structured and efficient reporting. So with this, I think that's all what we had. And Krishnan, thank you very much. You gave us some wonderful insights. And Anisha, thank you. And Diksha, thank you very much for inviting us on this platform to share our views. And I've really enjoyed myself in last 35 minutes, while discussing with you and Krishnan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jogendra.